to bed last night thinking that it's gonna be great. I'm gonna have such a great Sunday morning and I'm gonna get up early and I'm gonna seize the day and I'm just gonna start filming right away. And I mean, on the plus side, I did start filming as soon as I got up. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. Because I just got up, see, intro, tea. Yes, definitely tea is needed if I'm going to talk. All right, what am I here so relatively early on a Sunday morning to tell you all about? You guys don't know this actually. Usually I film on like Wednesday evenings. That's my usual filming time. So that's why I keep commenting on the fact that it's the weekend in the morning, because this is not my usual, but of course, how would you guys know when I usually film? This is a distraction. What I was saying is, what am I here to film? And that is the New York Times by the book tag. I'm not sure who the original creator was because the video link is like private now, so you can't see it. But I was tagged by Nell and Scott of Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. It's always both an honor and like a nervous thing to be tagged by them because their tags are so fantastic. They always have the most interesting discussions whenever they film a tag video. That always feels like a little bit of pressure to like make it good. I'm not saying that I'm gonna try and make this good. We'll see how it turns out and we're gonna deal with that. But I'm just like, go watch their video. It's really great and they always have the best videos and conversations and like takes on questions that I never come up with. And since there's no question to tag people in the tag, I'm going to start by doing that. I'm going to tag Amrita by the book. She's on a bit of a hiatus right now, but I know she loves an interview, so if you haven't already done this, tag Amrita. When you're ready, I think you'll enjoy it. I'm also going to tag Mariana Mas-Books, who is a fairly new booktuber, although it's been months now. Wow, time flies. Mariana is maybe not so new anymore, but she is a fantastic booktuber who just like, I don't know, I just vibe. She's great. She has such a great personality. She has such a great presence on camera. She's one of those people who, it doesn't matter if I'm interested in the book she's reading or not. I usually am. She reads fantastic books. But she's just one of those people who I always want to listen to. And finally, I'm gonna tag Bethan Brunel-Sokolar, who is another just, I mean, you guys know, there's so many booktubers that I love and it makes it sound silly, but like seriously, Bethan's content is just so interesting and she always, again, has such thoughtful, interesting answers to tags and like approaches things in such interesting ways. I don't know. Another one of those people who just like, yes, I'll watch you do anything. Plus sometimes there's photos of bees and those are so cool. This has not been coherent. This is why I usually plan these things out in advance. And now I guess I should answer some questions myself. Question 1 is, what book is on your nightstand now? If I'm being snarky, basically every book I own is on my nightstand because that's where my Kindle lives. If I'm not actively reading, it sits on my nightstand. And basically every book I own is on my Kindle. I mean, I guess except for obviously the physical ones, but like these are a very small fraction of my actual book collection if we're counting ebooks. So basically all of my books live on my nightstand. But to give like an actually interesting and like relevant answer, right now on my nightstand is Dead to Rites by Marmell. This is a supernatural paranormal mystery novel set in the 1930s. Yes, set in the 1930s. So our detective is like a classic gumshoe PI, like private detective dude from like a 1930s mystery. Except he's also fae. And a lot of his cases end up like involving the magical world and stuff, but everything is done in like total 1930s slang. I think this video is, yeah, okay, this video is going up well before my September wrap up. So that's a little spoiler into something that I'll be talking about at the end of the month. I also have currently on my nightstand The Night Manager by John le Carré, which again, I will talk about this a lot more at the end of the month actually. Do a full review now, but this is one of his spy thriller novels set, I think it's in like the early 90s. It was published in 93 and I think that's about when it's set. And it follows a spy, or reluctant spy, and arms dealers, and I can just never really get into le Carré's older or later works. Everything I've read of his from like the 60s and 70s-ish, I love. So good. And then the older ones I just struggle. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep picking away at The Night Manager, and so it's still on my bedside table. Then I have a few others that if I had physical books on my nightstand, they would be on my nightstand, but they're also just like the ones that are in the queue, the ones that I'm thinking that I'm gonna read next. And there's another question that asks about that, so I'll talk about those then. Question 2 is, what was the last truly great book that you read? I have to go with Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. This is a family tales, one of those stories where sort of nothing really happens, but we see so many elements of character and relationship. I never know how to describe them, but I love that kind of story. And I read it back in, I think, June maybe, and it was phenomenal, honestly. It was so incredible and beautiful, and just like, it was the one that when I was scrolling through the books I've read lately, it was the one that popped out. That was the one that went, oh man, oh yes, that was really truly incredible. Question 3. If you could meet any writer, dead or alive, who would it be? And what would you want to know? I've mentioned this before, but I'm so bad at meeting people. Even just like people in my general social circle who I think are cool, I get stressed out about meeting them. So I don't like the idea of meeting like authors or artists or movie stars or whatever that I really admire, because I think I just would ruin it by feeling uncomfortable. I like the idea of knowing them, but I don't like the idea of the initial meet where I'm like, oh my god, I love your stuff, and they're like, hi, you're a fan? That being said, I did want to actually answer the questions. I haven't read all of her books yet, but once I have read all of Jane Austen's works, I think it would be really cool to meet her. One, because I feel like she'd be maybe kind of more on my vibe. I'm not sure, but I feel like we could like have a meeting that wouldn't be so scary. And also just because I think it would be really interesting to talk to her about her works and get her perspective as the author, and then to like discuss and look at so much of the scholarship and analysis and work that has been done in the intervening 200 years, and to like be able to actually converse with her on all that stuff would be so fascinating. I think I need to pick up the pace. I'm going so slowly. But hey, maybe it'll be a long tag video. I haven't done one of those in a while, I don't think. Question 4. What books might we be surprised to find on your shelves? This one was really hard to answer for a different reason, and that's that for me, none of the books on my shelves are surprising. From my perspective, these all make sense together because it's my brain, it's my organization system, it's my books. I don't feel like, from my perspective, I have any one part of me that you'd go, whoa, you like this and this? That seems contradictory. I don't know. If you guys have seen my bookshelf tour, which I'm supposed to plug in the next answer, but I'm gonna do it now as well, go head over and see what I have on my shelves and let me know what jumps out to you as surprising. The one I've chosen just to have an answer though, I'm gonna actually grab from the shelf behind me now. And it is Gabriel Garcia Marquez's Crónica de una muerte anunciada. I don't think this is one of the really famous ones. See, this is the problem. You might have noticed. This book is in Spanish. As you will have just noticed, my Spanish is definitely not at the reading literature level. My French is barely at the reading literature level, and it is infinitely better than my Spanish. Why do I have this? Well, because when I was 19? Yeah. When I was 19, I did a 2-week course in Spain and then I took 2 weeks and like just traveled around, and it was like my first time really traveling on my own. But I was feeling really optimistic. I'd taken 1 or 2 years of intro Spanish, but I was feeling like, man, I'm gonna really into learning Spanish. I'm really gonna like do this. I'm gonna get so fluent. I'm gonna learn to read. This was a gorgeous edition of this book, so I was like, I'm gonna buy it, and then eventually I'm going to read it. I bought this book 7 years ago, and it has never been opened, even at the point where my Spanish was at its peak. But now it's just like a nice souvenir, and like, even if I can never read it in Spanish, I still want to have it. Okay, question 5. How do you organize your personal library? Well, physical, as I mentioned, I just did a video on this and I'm really happy with it, so I'm going to link it up here, and please go check that out if you're interested, because I don't know, I'm really excited about that video and I feel really good about it. As for my digital library, which is of course where most of my books are because they're mostly ebook, I know I say that like a million times, but I don't know, someone might be new here. Actually, I already said that in this video. Okay, I just say it too much. Maybe I should try and become really famous so the whole repetitiveness of it can be a funny in-joke that people make like merch about instead of just a sad quirk of a woman sitting alone in an office talking at a camera. Anyways, my ebook library. I don't really organize it. I used to keep my Kindle organized and like move things into folders by like author or something, but honestly at this point, it's just too much work. The Kindle organization system is terrible. I just don't organize anything. I use the search function, right? Like if I know what book I'm looking for, I just search it on my Kindle or search it in my ebook manager system on my laptop. But okay, you're probably saying that's not great for browsing, and it's true, it's really not. But the thing is, ebooks are, in my view, never really nice to browse, because when I browse a bookshelf, I'm seeing so much. Like I'm seeing the color of the spine, I can see the color of the titles, I can pull it out really easily and like see the description, all that sort of stuff. Ebooks, at least for me on my Kindle, just like don't feel that way. I don't feel the same attachment to a book when I see it on my Kindle and think, oh, should I read that, as I do when I'm like physically touching something and pulling it off a shelf and turning it over in my hand. And to get the best approximation of that feeling without actually having the physical books, I use the Storygraph. Yes, it's time for this video's plug of the Storygraph, which again, I should probably reach out and like be like, hey, can I be like an official influencer? Because they're a small company, maybe they'd be open to a small influencer, but it's kind of fun to just like pretend to be an influencer sometimes. I'm on so many tangents today, I'm so sorry. I really like the Storygraph because I can see I have every book that I own. This did take a little bit of work to input at the beginning, but I have every book that I own and want to read marked as like owned and to be read. So I can really easily use the Storygraph system to look at my to be read pile, then I can click just the books that I own and I can see everything that I have, and it's got like nice color photos and the descriptions right there and all that stuff. Or I can use their filter system and I can say, oh, I want to see all the books I own that are funny or lighthearted or in this genre or about this topic or whatever. And that really helps me figure out what I want to read, because often I'll have some sort of idea of like, oh, I want to read this type of book, but I don't really know what. So then I can go and look at all of them and be like, ah, that one jumps out right now. That is how my books are organized. I guess that sort of went into a huge segue about how I actually find books, but I feel like the organization and the finding are inherently linked, so I couldn't talk about one without talking about the other. The tea is gone, but I am too linked to the camera right now to go get another cup, so hopefully we can persevere through the rest of this video until it is safe to go get more tea. Question 6. What book have you always meant to read and haven't gotten around to yet? Anything you feel embarrassed never to have read? So what book do I want to read? I think there's a lot of books that I want to read and that I'm just not like ready to tackle yet. They're basically anything really long. I go, oh man, that sounds really cool, but like, I don't know. I really struggle with only reading one book for a month. So there's a lot of books like that that I would like to get to, or series like that. But right now I just struggle to do it. But I think the book that really, really exemplifies this is The Gene, An Intimate History. This is, I don't know, I guess about genes, and I don't really know. It sounds cool. I've heard good things, I think. Or maybe I haven't. I can't remember what I've heard, but it's one of those books that I want to read. I feel like there's going to be interesting information. It's going to be valuable to have read. I'm going to be glad that I read it, but it's just so long and like kind of an intimidating topic. I never want to pick it up. I never feel embarrassed about not having read these books though. Well, yes, I do want to read them and I would like to get to them someday. I don't think there's any books that I feel like, yeah, ashamed to have not read. Maybe there are and I just don't notice it. I've read what I've read and that's a totally valid choice for books to have read. Okay, remembering why I don't usually film in the morning, because I don't make any sense. On that note, question 7, disappointing, overrated, just not good. What book did you feel you were supposed to like but didn't? Do you remember the last book you put down without finishing? So I have to go with Deadly Company and Grave Importance by Vivian Shaw. That's books 2 and 3 in the Dr. Greta Helsing series, which is about doctor to the supernatural. This is the issue, right? I remember the first book being fantastic. I only gave it 4 stars, so I guess I didn't love it because I give a lot of 5 stars. But in my head, it was an incredible book and I absolutely adored it. So I was really excited a year later when I got to the sequel. And the sequel just wasn't as good. It had potential, it had elements that I liked, but it just like didn't work for me. And then I read the last book in the trilogy and it was the same experience. I was just going, wait, I had such high expectations for this and this is just okay. I wasn't disappointed because like the world told me these books were going to be amazing or something, just that my own brain had thought that they were going to be, and then when they weren't, it was kind of underwhelming. And the last book I put down without finishing was L'élégance du hérisson, or The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbery. I talked in both my July and in my August wrap-ups about this book, so I will link those up there if you want to know why I didn't finish it. Question 8. What kinds of stories are you drawn to? Any you stay clear of? Would it be redundant to say that I'm drawn to good stories and I steer clear of bad ones? I don't feel like for me there are certain traits that are universally associated with good or universally associated with bad. I think there are tendencies, depending on the author, depending on how they're doing things, depending on how everything is set up. There's a lot of traits that if it's done well, this is my favorite thing. And if it's done poorly, I don't want anything to do with it because it's just not good. Question 9. If you could require the president to read one book, what would it be? I'm sorry, this is too much pressure and I've answered a lot of questions that were difficult already, so I'm skipping this one. Question 10. What do you plan to read next? I plan to read Lost Acre by Andrew Caldecott. This is the last book in the Rather Weird trilogy, which I have talked about so much, but I will just do the quick breakdown for anyone who might not have heard me rant about it before. Basically, it's set in this weird little town in rural England that's been basically detached from the rest of the country since the Elizabethan era. It's first of all just like this weird situation where it's like their technology and their society have evolved differently to the outside world, but then also it's fantasy and there's magic. This is another case of I loved the first book in like late 2019 or early 2020. I read the second book, I think early this year, so early 2021, and it was just not as good as the first book. But I do want to finish the trilogy and see how everything wraps up. I'm hoping that this middle book was just suffering from middle book syndrome, and that when I get to the final one where it all gets wrapped up, that it'll be back in good form. Other than that, I have so many other books that are swirling around as possibles because I'm just basically mood reading in September, so I don't know. I guess it depends on when I finish the books I'm reading and what I'm in the mood for then. Right now though, I'm in the mood for more tea, so let's finish out this video. Let me know down below, have you guys done this tag? If you have, let me know because, I don't know, somehow I haven't seen that many of them, even though I think they've been around a lot, I just haven't been getting around to watching them. So let me know because now I want to see everyone's answers. And what books are on your nightstand? I would love to know how you manage that system, and do you keep one book? Do you keep 20? I want to hear about it. Alright, if you liked this video, please give it a like down below. If you'd like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.